So it's my pleasure to introduce Ian Dewar. Now, Ian is the chaplain to Morecambe Hospital Trust, but one of the things he's involved in is the Lancaster Heath Festival. So you're not going to get any slides tonight. You're not going to get any PowerPoint. You're just going to get Ian. So Ian's going to talk to us. He's going to ad-lib a bit, and we'll see where we get to. So Ian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, James. There we go. Right. Okay. So as my lovely host explained, I am I'm the lead chaplain for Morecambe Bay Trust. I've been here about, where are we now? 7 years. Yeah, coming to 7 years. 22 years, right? 7 years, a long time, isn't it? I was chaplain of Lancaster, then became lead chaplain 3 or 4 months into the pandemic because the previous lead chaplain had retired. So what I'm going to do is talk about an event I kicked off, 5 or 6 years ago now. I'm going to talk through some details of that, and then I'll pause for any questions. But I'm also conscious, and this happens all the time, that if I go and talk about something, people almost invariably come back to say, what was it like living through a pandemic in the trust? So if anybody does have questions like that, I'm quite happy to to have a go at dealing with those as best as I can, really. The main topic of conversation tonight is a thing called the Lancaster Heath Festival. About 6 years ago now, I got concerned that we had all sorts of plans inside the trust for public health and population health. And everybody inside the trust knew all about them and got very excited about them, but nobody outside seemed to know about them, and that seemed to defeat the object because it's population health, not trust staff health. So I came with this idea that we need to communicate differently. So I sat down and thought, well, what does Lancaster do really well that might provide a model for communicating differently? And my conclusion was the music festival. My eldest lad was involved in the music festival in its early days. We've always been supporters of it. I think it's just absolutely fantastic the way you can kind of wander around Lancaster, have a couple of beers, see different types of music, engage with it. The police almost invariably report that there's a drop in kind of incidents during the weekend of the health music festival because people are having fun doing it. So I thought, why can't we have a health festival? Now, I'd seen similar health events, and they were kind of like health mellas or health fairs or whatever. And I really wanted to avoid that language because as soon as you say health, you're automatically in danger of being worthy. So, we're going to do something about health. And people automatically think, I'm going to have to take, I'm 95, but I've got to start jogging. Or do you know what I mean? I'm kind of, I've got to give something up I like doing. Or it has a very kind of negative connotation. So I wanted to tie it to a word that was more positive, of which festival is. So we went for Health Festival. I went to 3 of the directors at the time. I said, I've got this idea. It's a health festival. It's about creating space for people just, talking about health, engaging with health, just having fun whilst they're doing it. And there are certain rules, So, for example, we don't want to stand behind stalls and do things. And these directors very kindly said, we think it's a great idea. We need to tell you 3 things. So, what's that? You're not allowed any alcohol sponsorship. Okay, you're not allowed any drug company sponsorship. Okay, and we've got no money. Went, yeah, okay, fine, game on. So we did. So I just grabbed a few people together, a few volunteers, and we put it together. And I begged, stole, and borrowed. And we got, for me, what was really encouraging, our first keynote speaker was Trevor Phillips, former director for race equality under the Labour government. Fascinating guy, and I thought there'd be no chance of him coming up, but he loved it. He came up, and he's joined in since by doing podcasts for us, and he said he really enjoyed coming up. He said it was just fantastic for him to engage with 120, 150 people in St Thomas's Church and talk about race and health, which is a very controversial topic. But he said they were all interested, they were all thoughtful, and that was fantastic. And that was the essence of it, really. In the build up to that first one, we put down unintentionally, it wasn't unintentional, but we put down a marker when a particular group in the trust rang me up and said, we believe that you're doing a health festival. That's right. We have a public remit. Yeah. Can we be part of it? And I said, okay, what are you going to do? And they said, well, what we do is we encourage people to take a different direction in life. And the way we do it is we have a stall and we give out leaflets. And I said, that's really interesting. I'm very sorry, I don't want you. What do you mean you don't want us? And I said, well, actually, what I want is people who will stand in front of a stall, not people who are standing behind a stall, because it's just too easy to stand behind a stall, give out 2,000 leaflets, feel good about yourself when 99% will end up on the floor with a bit of luck, 1% will get recycled. That will be it. So that was the philosophy we went forward on. We did the first one, we took over Sun Square, we did some Tai Chi and some kind of salsa dancing. There were other things going on, bits of yoga. We had speakers, and it started on a Friday night and did it on a Saturday. And it was great. It was hard work, but it was great. We repeated the following year and took over Lancaster Castle, and we had cooking demos, we had Roman centurions, and it was hard work because actually the people who helped me the previous year had all got different jobs. So it was me and one other, and that was just tough. But the trust to its credit put some money into it, and we engaged with about 2,000 people. And as one of the directors said, who came along, this is just great. I've kind of, we've never done anything like this. And actually, after the first couple, I think that same director had actually said, if I'm really honest, what Ian and the chaplaincy team have done is show us what we're capable of. We've not thought about it before. And that was really good. Year 3, I got a bit more support. I managed to second a bit of staff. Again, it was a bit of, in big organisation, you've got to negotiate these things. And we put it on in Lancaster and then in Barrow as well, because that's always been our intention, that if it works in one place, we can extend to others. Engaged with 4,000 in Lancaster, 1,000 in Barrow, great success. Then the pandemic hit. I had volunteers in Lancaster who ran the Lancaster Health Festival for me, and without them, it wouldn't have happened. I'm really, really grateful. They were they did it all online. Had a very heavy food bias because that's their interest and their kind of campaigning issues, but I don't care, it took place. And we engaged a few hundred people, did some interesting stuff. Last year, we launched a combination of online and face-to-face. We engaged with 1,500 people, and we about a few hundred online at courses, and about 15,000 followers on Facebook and various other forms of social media. So it kind of grew. So what we knew was we had a model, and the trust actually recognised this. They recognise it's a model, it's something unique, it's not something else anybody else appears to do. The question then was, where do you go? So I managed to embarrass, blackmail, whatever, a bit more cash out of the trust. And I kept somebody on from last year doing some marketing, which has given us a lot of momentum for this year. The upshot is that this year we've got more people coming to us, and we're having the festival in Lancaster, we're having the festival in Barrow in Furness, and we've got South Lakes asking if they can put events on the same weekend. So in other words, it's becoming a kind of bay footprint issue. What we are finding is that the integrated care communities, which are meant to be the kind of population health arm of the trust, along with lots of other groups, are coming to us. Because what they recognise is that we are making concrete the aspirations of people to change the health and well-being of the area. So, it's... I could direct you to 6 or 7 very worthy documents that talk about population health. They read like a wish list, really, and that's really nice, but you've got to turn a wish list into action, haven't you? And what the Health Festival does is it turns it into action. So that's the kind of the background and a wee bit about the philosophy. I'll pause there if there's any questions, and then I'll describe where we're at this year and why I am meditating more than ever to lower my stress levels and contemplating Valium. But come on, any questions, anybody? Any thoughts?
Well, let's let Ian sort of get a breath. So who'd like to ask a question? Who'd like to be first?
If you just pop your hands up, you do the hand sign thing.
Dan, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Dan. Dan, you're on mute. There you are.
There you go. I've got lots of questions because I'm very interested in it, but I think I want to hear a bit more first so I can actually see the whole picture. But well done, Ian, so far.
Okay, thank you. And is there any particular aspects that you want to know more about?
Well, yes, it's the mindfulness and meditation aspect of it. I mean, I'm involved in the Story Gardens, and we were considering whether we could do something in the gardens on the weekend of 9th, 10th of July, focusing on things like sort of art, poetry, music, something, and just relaxation. So that those were the thoughts we've had, but I haven't taken them any further because I just wanted to hear a bit more about it.
Okay, well let's go with that then. Let's tell you how we've broken up this year into various sections, and tell you what our, in one sense, one of our core aims is, and then I'll talk you more details about things that are taking place. Is that okay?
Yes.
Right, so this year, the Lancaster one, when it started growing 3 years ago, it became kind of like 4 days, really, as in it started on a Thursday night with an opening event, and then it had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The same is true this year. We'll have a Thursday night opening event. It's likely to have a theme. It's likely to be Thursday night, Friday night, possibly Saturday night. Our opening event for Thursday night is we've got a professor of anatomy who's going to cut up some bodies for us. So that's okay. Well, not quite that. We're going to get body parts from the butchers, and he's going to sit there and say, this is what a heart looks like. Cut, cut, cut. This is how you keep a heart healthy. And this is what your lungs might look like, and all that, and talk it through, really. And that's a great fun, because we will do tickets for that. We might only be able to get 30 or 40 in the venue we've got in mind, depending on what restrictions are at the time. But I think we're also likely to put it a live stream it on Facebook or something. What we're thinking of doing is on the Thursday evening, because this is very popular in the Victorian period, 19th century, we might have a competition for those who've got tickets for the best dressed Victorian, so they can come to their own kind of Victorian anatomy lesson, and where the prize might be a pig's heart. I've no idea, but there we go. We'll think of something. But what we do is we divvy the weekend up into sections. So we've got an opening night event, which we hope grabs a wee bit of attention. Friday has a big concentration on schools and schools work and events there, and our integrated care community, Sarah Baines, take care of that. Saturday is all about kind of engaging with issues, having fun, and food in particular. And we're in Dalton Square for that. We're going to Dalton Square. And Sunday is about chilling out and mindfulness and relaxation. And again, we're in Dalton Square then, about having and just having, just relaxing by having a wee bit of fun, really. So we tend to go in roughly along those themes. Barrow in Furness will only be 1 day because it's just starting again. But the enthusiasm is fantastic. They're taking over Barrow Raiders ground, and they've got 15, 20 events going on there, and that will increase, I'm sure, and lots of groups piling into that. That's highly significant, especially if South Lakes come on board, because one of the core aims that we're after is this. We want the Bay footprint, or people living within the Bay footprint, every year to think, it's the first full weekend in July, it must be the Health Festival. And the reason we want that is that most people don't think about health and well-being until the leg's falling off. And what we're saying is, prevention is better than the cure. If you turn up to the Health Festival and for the first time in your life, you do a bit of chair-based exercise, or you do some Tai Chi, or you sit around and have a laugh with your family and say, do you know what, we need to get out more. Let's do something once a month. That is fantastic, because you've made a change to your life, and therefore you're improving your health and well-being. And that's what we're after. Okay. So we've got the opening night speaker. We've got the skills work on the Friday. The main thrust of the Saturday is we're going to be in Dalton Square. We've got about 20 stalls at the moment, I think. Some food stalls. We've got exercise stalls. We've got the council coming. We've got various other groups kind of putting stuff on. And that's about people gathering and doing stuff. And that'll be about 10 to 4. Sunday, similar kind of setup, but with a major emphasis on relaxation, and also a major emphasis on cycling. So I've had a conversation today with the City Council, who are going to send me all the documentation for applying to close Dalton Square, and they will help me fill it in if I struggle with it. So that's fantastic. So Saturday and Sunday of the Health Festival weekend, we will close Dalton Square to traffic, so people can walk around freely and enjoy what's going on. I'm also in contact with a road traffic management company who've sent me a map over. I've got another meeting tomorrow, and we are hoping on the Sunday morning between 10 and 1 to close designated roads in Lancaster leading up from Sainsbury's to Dalton Square. And again, the city council are very supportive about this, and the county council have raised no objection to it. They just want the road traffic management to do it properly. So I think we're kind of on for all that. And what we're trying to do is put onto the agenda with all that the fact that actually it is possible for our city to change. Everyone always says you can't do something. What we're saying is, well, why can't we do something? Why can't we try something? And once we've kind of lined all that up, and we should have it all, that should all be, if we're going to be able to do it, should all be done and dusted within the next, 4 weeks, really, by mid-April. We will then promote like mad schools and organisations, community groups, and say, let's make history. Let's, for the first time in the history of Lancaster, have the roads closed for cyclists to enjoy a good time. Alongside all that, and I didn't know this till yesterday actually, but we've got 2 or 3 kind of restaurants offering to come and do food for us. We have devised the Lancaster wrap. I better explain the Lancaster wrap. I'm a bread maker. I've been doing it 30 odd years, and I know that, and there's a beautiful book about this called Oats in the North, Wheat in the South, that historically we grew and ate oats in the north. It's the climate, it's the length of the warm season, the growing season, it's the amount of rain, all that. Oats grow better than wheat. So I thought, well, what would be a traditional food for kind of northern Britain? Well, oat cakes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, well, what else could we do? I thought, well, let's play around with this. So I went and bought a bag of oats from Morrison's. Not porridge oats, but the oat bran, and I just made a pancake batter. I just made a big pancake and thought, bloody hell, it's a wrap. So basically, we kind of get this big pancake, and you put in it whatever food you want. You can make the pancake, and you can make it with oat flour or oat bran. And basically, you can have Lancashire cheese and salad. You can have chicken tandoori if you like. You can do whatever you like. So we had having a competition. We've written now, and we're doing with this Lancaster bid. We've written to all the restaurants and said, we've got this idea. Do you fancy turning up and doing a Lancaster wrap? There is a restaurant in Lancaster that specialises in wraps, and they're turning up. They're having a crack at it, which is fantastic. Well, that's now grown, and the College of FE are hoping to turn up and not only make the Lancaster wrap, but also to make there's some bread rolls, I forget what they're called now, that were famous in this part of the world a couple of years ago, covered in certain poppy seeds or whatever. And also, because I was reading this book on the history of food, I didn't know this, but we had clap breads around here. And when I say clap breads, people will go, what? Well, basically, think Scandinavian crisp bread, that's a clap bread. That is a traditional, historical, north of Britain, made from oats, flatbread, a crisp bread rather. So I've now said that to the College of FE. So what we're hoping is the College of FE and here and Furness College in Barrow and Furness will get all that food together and make all those things. We have an agreement with Morrison's, and they said, we can't give you money, but whatever food you want, we'll give it to you. So if we get these people lined up to make this stuff, we then go to Morrison's and say, you're the sponsor, give us the food. And at the festival, people get food, but our vision is that on the Sunday, people cycle up the road, cycle into Dalton Square and get a Lancaster wrap or a Lancaster clapbread. And we start reintroducing traditional food and say to people, this stuff is all right. This stuff is really good for you. So that's the aim. What we've also had a conversation with the council about today, and they're pretty chilled about this, which is, I think there are some good things that come out of this pandemic. One of which is a council that realises it's nice to be a bit more cooperative. Really, don't quote me on that. No, but that'd be great. We have a scaffolding firm here. They get big contracts from us. At Christmas, they I don't know if I did. We've tried sharing my screen before, haven't we? It doesn't work for me, I don't think, on here.
Should do.
Let's have a look.
Hold on. Screen sharing's on, so it should be okay.
Let me have a look.
There you go. Yeah.
Here we go. Look, it's not quite the stage, but at Christmas, because we couldn't have carols around the hospice, I said to the bloke with the scaffold, he says, how do you fancy putting a stage up for us, mate? He went, yeah, no bother. We do it for restaurants and pubs and clubs all the time and concerts and gigs. So he did put the it took him a day, scaffolding stage. We had a brass band, we had a jazz band.
The picture's not showing at the moment, Ian.
Is it not? Oh no.
Yeah, I don't think you've double clicked on it. It's just
it's showing you. Hold on. No, it's coming up on my screen, but it's not coming up.
No, this
So
is what.
if you close that down, close the file thing down,
Yeah.
and then it should be underneath that with a bit of luck. So if you can close your
The picture.
no, the screen that's showing where where it says file DSD
Oh, okay.
1341.
Right.
Close the.
I've got
close
it
that
right.
Page.
Is that it?
No,
No, it's taking it
It's
off.
not for
Sorry.
doing it, is it?
no.
Yeah.
Never mind. I'll send them along. It's a shame. But I got this stage. There's a picture of a fire eater. We had a fire eater come along. It's fantastic. Our chief exec, when he saw it, said, "Ian, as usual, absolutely fantastic. Please tell me H&S were involved." So I then emailed back and said, "A bit confused by that one, Aaron. I normally shop at M&S. Our best wishes, Ian." So I did go back an hour later just to calm his stress down a wee bit. And they have been offering to do a stage for us in Dalton Square, and the council seem quite chilled about that. As long as we can protect the cobbles, they're happy. So we hope to have live music on there, Fight Club doing demos, because fight clubs are into health and well-being, aren't they? You want to be fit if you're fighting. You don't want to be eating rubbish. Any other demo we can get on there, possibly cooking demos or whatever stuff like that. So it's going to be a real kind of festival event. The web page is Bay Health Festivals. I'll get it and I'll put it in the chat, and then that will be a good start.
Well, one thing that's fresh for you, Ian, that you're probably not aware of. We have spoken with Ian before about the walks that we do for the Civic Society, Lancaster Civic Vision. We have got a brand new walk which has not been published yet.
Oh, fantastic!
And it's the Friary and Dalton Square.
That's really interesting because the Priory have got the Earth coming in at the weekend, and we're linking up with each other to point each other in each other's directions.
Yeah. Sorry,
so
the Priory.
So that's fantastic.
This one's the Friary and.
The Friary.
Square.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So which is on the route that you've closed off. So that's I say it won't be out until later on this week, but we have that available, so we can work with you on that.
Fantastic.
And create something around that as well.
Brilliant. I mean, any of those walks that you've got are fantastic, because basically people could come either to Dalton Square, or if you want to start at the Priory, because they've got the Earth thing there, and they can sign up. We can put them online on the they can book on Eventbrite, or just roll up and say, right, I want to walk the city. And that's just to get to know your area is really important about health and well-being, isn't it? I didn't realize that building was. It's fascinating, isn't it? Go for that. So we've got that going on. We've got our usual sellout, which is tours of our mortuary. They're just you put the tickets on for that, and they're gone within like half an hour. Fantastic. So we'll have 3 or 4, if not more, tours of the mortuary going on at the weekend as well. I'm just going to read out to you. Let me. You'll be able to see me. I won't be able to see you. I'm just going to bring up the festival spreadsheet. It's a pity I can't share this. You'd love it, really. There's something about the way we're connected. It must be the trust thing. But on the Saturday, the stalls, we've got health checks with the Harry bus. That's mental health as well. We've got a smoothie bike. We've got Samba Espirito for music. We've got the Hafner Orchestra. We've got the Earth Festival up at the Priory. Fire Eater. We've got to confirm some details on that. We've got a film club running up at the Gregson, and the Gregson are putting about another 7 or 8 on. Somebody, we're not quite sure how this is going to work, but we've got a pole dancer coming, Beck's Pole Studio, so you can do some pole dancing alike. We've got food friends coming. We've got Peas Please Veg campaign. We've got GAM Care. I'm not quite sure what that is. Somebody explained the other day. We've got Egg Cook coming, Euro Drop In, Citizens Advice, Bay Volunteers, Feel Fabulous Forever with Laura. We've got Kurgan Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, Soltero coming, Civic Society coming. That's you lot, so we're all right with that. We think we might even have a flash mob from Ludus Dance. We've got catering, Age UK. You can go tours of the plot, the new farm that started around Lancaster. First Light Trust, Asda have heard about it and want to come and put a stall on, so we're going to get them to sponsor a smoothie bike. I think we'll have face painting. Someday, this is really weird to me. It's just up my thing. Somebody's going to do free flowers and hugs. I'm hugging people. What's going on? Yes, dreadful stuff. But if you don't want to hug it and get a flower, We've got Finding Magic Communities Corporation, we've got College of a Fee, we've got Mega Music Mix, we've got Rap Ninjas, that's the restaurant coming, they're a food stall, things like that. That's the Saturday. On the Sunday, we may well have the head of public health for Lancashire, Sakti Kunaniti, coming along to teach from yoga. We're thinking of doing a longer term project, Sakti and I. Both of us are absolutely fascinated with religious meditation, because both of us practice it, but the work that's going on in neuroscience around that, and I'll come on to that in a minute to give you a bit more information. Hopefully Sunday will be the cycling event, Smoothie Bike, Earth Festival, Cancer Care are coming, West End Impact are doing something, Lindsay Somatics, Samaritans, Tara Centre coming, Open Green Space Lancaster, there'll be more health checks, Alzheimer's, more food, more face painting, flowers and hugs are still there, it would appear. We're going to have a remembrance tent, having had the pandemic. Hopefully Sakti come and do some yoga and meditation for us, and there'll be 3 or 4 bike stalls as well, selling bikes and promoting the Grand Prix the following week. I personally still think we need more, and I think more will come in with stalls, and we need I don't know if you know anybody. We need circus entertainers. We need kind of people who can juggle. Do you know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. If anybody knows anything like that, send them my way. It's got to be fun. It's got to be entertaining. And people have got to find out stuff that's worthwhile doing, really. I may yet drop a note to S and see if they want to do some salsa dancing or any other events, things like that, or some free Indian head massage or whatever. Okay. There's all sorts of other things that are interesting. And the beauty of the health festival is it grows. And it grows in what you can learn. And we're now having a very serious conversation inside the trust because of its success. And actually, I say this with all honesty and sincerity, it has been a huge success. And for one simple reason alone, most things in healthcare last 2 or 3 years. This is hitting year 6. It's got staying power. Now, that probably is largely due to just a bullshit bugger like me constantly every year coming back and saying, why aren't we doing this? And I get that. But every year it grows because other people have bought into the vision. Other people are interested in it. You know, and 2 years ago, we started doing podcasts, and we'll do some more this year. So we're building up a whole kind of range of things. The word is getting out there. And I think it's going to be even bigger this year, because one of the marketing campaigns we're pushing is beyond the pandemic. People have been locked inside for 2 years. They need to get out. They need to rediscover a bit of life. And what the serious conversation we're having inside the trust is not just has it got staying power, but why don't we turn this into a permanent brand? So let's take a really simple example. You have a quit smoking campaign. Classic quit smoking campaign might be, here's 50,000 for the next 2 years, do a quit smoking campaign. The first £10,000, the first 6 months of your time, go in marketing it. Then you finally get around to delivering it. And then after 2 years, you've had great success. And after 3 years, your success has dropped off because it's not been long enough to get fully established. You know, so we still have a problem. What we're saying is, well, look, if we're building the health festival, if more people are hearing about it, if we get groups such as yourself, Civic Vision, coming on board saying, well, I've heard about it and we can do it, we can partner up with this, and you're going out spreading the word about it, what you then have is a brand that you can use throughout the year. So you can have your once a year big event, but in September, you might say, Bay Health Festivals are kicking off a 2-year quit smoking campaign with our integrated care communities. And you might as well give us 10,000 for marketing and save you 6 months hard work when we've got a pre-existing audience listening to what we're saying. And that is the major problem with lots of change in society, is that everybody wants to reinvent the wheel and rebrand themselves. But if you can keep a brand going for 5 or 6 years, you suddenly get a lot more profile. So, for example, it was really quite easy to talk to the council today because all the council officers have heard about the health festival, because I've been talking about it for 4 or 5 years and they've had some involvement. And now they've got to the stage where they want to partner up with things like that much more. I'm a natural partner to go in with, or the festivals are, not me. I mean, you know, so they carry on long beyond my sell-by date. You know, so what I'm arguing for is, if you can build a consistent brand for 6 to 10 years, then you actually have a genuine chance of leveraging population health, because people become familiar with it and expect it. And if every year people are saying it's a health festival, maybe I should learn something different, maybe you should get a health check, maybe you should, you know, think about my diet, whatever it is, about mental health, whatever, then actually that's probably more that we've done for public health than the last 50 years, really, because people don't think of population. Look, they don't turn up to their legs falling off, we said before. So it's a major thing, I think, really. And we can't find anybody else who's doing this. And people may be doing it. And if they are, good to them, because it needs doing. But we seem to be quite cutting edge on this. And that for us is just kind of, you know, really important. So building that brand, building that image, building that knowledge is fine. This brings me to the philosophy of the Health Festival. And the philosophy is simply this. It is to create space for people to have conversations about their health and well-being that are important for them. So, you know, if we have, as we do, lots of eco groups turning up, I'm happy. If somebody said, you know, I am an academic and I'm erring towards being a climate denier, and I think the arguments are this, can I have space? I would say yes, because it's good to hear what people say who don't agree with you, usually because they spot something you don't know. So when Trevor Phillips came out, that was quite controversial. We had one bloke bouncing up and down like mad, because you can't say that race affects health, but you can say it. It's just sensitive to say it. You know, so if a guy gets up and says, actually, I'm really not sure about his climate change because of X, Y, and Z, then we'll get somebody up to say, well, I think you're wrong because of A, B, and C. Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Because actually health and well-being is about intellectual health and well-being. It's about direction of society. It's about what values we want. I mean, you yourselves as a group have been putting out kind of press releases about land that's being sold, about land allocated for housing, about Carnforth. Well, so you should. Absolute more power to you, because we have to have conversations about what kind of area we want to live in. And some of you have heard me say this before. I can't think of a city like Lancaster that's done so much to destroy its own history. I mean, who on earth uncovers a major Roman bath next to the castle, which is the clearest indication you can possibly have that there's a major garrison here, because you don't big build Roman baths unless there's a big garrison here. And having uncovered it and you know, assessed it, sticks a bloody car park on top of it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. So all those conversations have to be had. And that's the philosophy of the Health Festival. Last point I'll say, and then open to questions, is we're always open to new ideas, and we're always fascinated by things that are really, really simple that can improve your health. So if you are wrestling with how to improve your sex life at the moment, I can give you one simple answer, and it's this. Start breathing through your nose. All right? I've just been doing some research on breathing, and there's a fascinating line of argument that actually we have all sorts of ailments, whether it's just really bad snoring as a consequence of which you get poor sleep, and sleep apnea, and various other ailments, because we breathe badly. And since the Industrial Revolution, the past 300 years, really, in effect, we started breathing through our mouths. If you look at the paleontological record of skulls prior to that, this last 300 years, they have stronger jaw lines, stronger jaw muscles around here, bigger nasal passages, and straight teeth. And the reason is they kept their mouths shut and breathe through the nose, which actually gives you not only better oxygen, but the most important thing people don't realize is higher levels of carbon dioxide in your blood, which is stuff that moves around your blood system, keeps it going. And at the same time, because their food wasn't processed, they chewed more, so they had better teeth in that sense, apart from the dental stuff. In fact, in the 19th century, there's a record of, you can spot the most privileged kids, they've got the worst teeth, because they had all the processed food from the Industrial Revolution. What I found out, I had no idea about it. I read it twice to make sure he'd written what he'd said he'd written, and he had written it. And I looked at the back for the references to cross-reference it, and I've checked it out myself. I've Googled and had a look around. Is a significant percentage of the nerve endings in your nose are connected to your reproductive and sexual organs. So when you look after your nose, you look after your sexual organs. The old joke about big noses in various parts of the anatomy may have more truth to it than we actually think. But it is true. I'm going to email tomorrow one of our respiratory consultants, because I want to set up a little experiment. I've started anyway, but just to see if I sleep better. And I do. For the past week, I've been going to bed and taping up my mouth, not completely. You know, you get the elastoplast strips that you put on bandages. I've got two pieces that look like a bit of Charlie Chaplain. I've put them across my mouth like that and just breathe through my nose. And what I've noticed is I sleep better, but in the morning I've got more of a runny nose. That's a bit odd, but I've realised what it is my nasal passages are just working, because what your nose does is, unlike your mouth, so you can get more illness through your mouth than through your nose. Your nasal hair filters the air that goes into you. It also humidifies it, so it's easier to take in, and controls the temperature, which your mouth does not. So the effect of breathing has a much better impact on your circulatory system and the quality of your blood. There you go.
Okay, fascinating. Fascinating, Ian. Fascinating. So
I'll finish there. Any questions?
Who
wants to go first? Any questions? Or what are you thinking about it? I've got a couple of points that I wanted to make, which I just really sort of thought of, Ian, when you were talking. And the first one was around saying you still think there's scope to get other people involved. Have you got any linkage with the park run people?
No, I mean, I've kind of left them alone because they're an established group, really. But it might be worth just bobbing them a note and saying we're doing this.
The reason I asked that is that there's two now in Lancaster. Well, there's one in Lancaster Park, and in Morecambe at the front. And then we've done it. The really surprising thing is just what an eclectic gang of people it is. You've got old guys like me. You've got really fit people. You've got really unfit people, and for me, one of the successes of the park run movement is that it actually gets people into the parks. And earlier, when you were talking to Diane about the friends at Story Gardens, you were touching on the importance of open spaces, and so it just occurred to me. I just wondered whether, because they're always dead keen to get more people involved. So it might be
okay.
Putting the feeler out.
I've made a note of that. I'll drop a note, Jamie, because it's I mean it's. If they do something on the weekend of the health festival,
it runs every Saturday morning.
That's right. Yeah. I'm just thinking whether they could run up to the park from Dalton Square, whether they could do something that kind of just marks it out as part of the event. Do you know what I mean, or whatever?
Yeah. Well, because the other thing I thought was that they might just be interested in trying to get more people involved, because you've got your captive audience, and you've got a means to reach out to lots of people. So that was the first one. The other one I just wanted to raise was you said a lot about food, right?
Yeah.
And I think one, and I know you're not oriented to this direction, but the whole food debate can be quite a middle class thing, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And one of the things I wondered about was whether, because you're doing this because you're trying to tackle health inequalities, yeah. And the reality of life is, the poorer you are, the more likely you are to have ill health. Statistically proven, no argument about that. And you were also talking about the Lancaster wrap and how to eat healthy. And I just wondered whether there was any mileage in trying to link up with some of the food banks locally, because what they're doing is they're giving people food, right? Yeah. And I mean, the problem we've now got is that food banks are normalised, haven't they? Yeah. They're there. There's more food banks in the country than there are branches of McDonald's. But I just wondered whether there was any angle that sort of liaison between the health festival, or even public health generally, and the food banks, because as well as giving people food, whether it's canned food or packaged food, advice and guidance about what to do with it, how to use it more healthily. So it was just a couple of thoughts that came into my head as you were talking.
Yeah, I mean, we are doing that. I'm a trustee of Morecambe Bay Food Bank, and we're having that very conversation. How can you set up cooking classes? How can you shift? Initially, when you set up a food bank, you take all the donations. We know now we need to move on to, well, actually, basically some of the stuff that comes through, we're grateful we've got it, but my life, you won't feed it your own kids. Do you know what I mean? And you say, well, that's not right, is it? You've got to step it up a gear. How do we do that? And how do we balance gratitude for people making donations with saying, actually, from this date, we would prefer these items, or do you know what I mean? And things like that, because
they do that though, because I mean, my experience was before the pandemic. I mean, I used to put stuff in the various bins in the supermarkets. But then when I started going to the supermarket lived else, I thought, well, actually, people need this more now. So I put a standing order. And then I thought, well, that's actually better because the food bank can actually buy,
that's exactly it. That is exactly it.
Anyway, I don't want to hog it. Anybody else got Diane, you've got your hand up again.
Just to sort of say, I think Ian's mentioned Egg Cup, haven't you? And I wonder what they're doing in terms of their presentation on presumably Dalton Square. So that would fit in with what you're saying there. And then can you tell me? Well, I think it's true that the Lancaster Green Spaces, that as an organisation, which I understand brings together the parks and the other green spaces in Lancaster. And just as a matter of interest, they are meeting in May. I mean, might meet before then, but there's a meeting in May in the Story on the 19th of May. And the only reason I know that is that they're meeting in the Story building and then they're visiting the tasting garden. And I was just thinking that is probably, if they're all meeting together, you'd be able to get them all at the same time. Or they're booked in. They came last year to do it, and then they're booked in again for this year. So I don't know what they're doing. It's because I've got somebody working on marketing for me, but they're definitely part of the Health Festival because, and again, Jerry and David have heard me say this before. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure the reasons are quite sophisticated in many respects, but somewhere in the 80s, life kind of flipped upside down. So I remember growing up in a working class family in Lancaster, and you walked to the park or you walked to the green space and you enjoyed it, and you had the food that your mum cooked. And suddenly in the 80s, we seemed to flip, whereas you only went to the park if you were doing a more to be pejorative middle class type thing, and everybody started buying processed food. And it's almost as if the working classes retreated from society or were just pushed back. And actually, there was a brilliant book. I've got the review. I haven't read the book yet, but it charts almost the decline or the denigration of the working class, and it charts it through comedy. And it says in the 50s and 60s, the comedy that you had was very working class, particularly northern working class. So you had a lot of northern working class kind of club humour coming onto TV, being cleaned up a wee bit, also quite a bit really, some respects. And that was it. And the height of comedy was like Morecambe and Wise Christmas special, 1970s, X million viewers. But we also got starting to grow in the 1960s was middle class humour. And so you get Monty Python, you get what were the two called? Can't remember. Anyway, and you get Griffith Private Eye and various other things. And mainstream TV becomes dominated by middle class comedians, not working class comedians. And one of the jokes, one of the butts of middle class jokes tends to be thick right wing working class people. And so you get this denigration going on. And actually, that is the very thing, as Jamie pointed out, I want to avoid in terms of food and various other things. Those are the issues that are buzz around, really. And so something has changed in our culture. Now, that analysis may be accurate, it may be inaccurate, it may be 60-70% accurate, I don't know. But something changed in our culture. And my concern is people of my parents' generation, who grew up working class, were working class all their lives, don't fit into our culture anymore. Why is that?
Right, I'm going to take Roger. Roger's
just a point of information. The Lancaster Green Spaces are meeting at 5:30 on Thursday, the 17th.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Dan, is that a new hand or an old hand?
Yeah, just to sort of check out then. So, I mean, it may not be possible to do something on a Sunday in the Story Gardens, but if it was, is that going to conflict with everything else that's going on, or will it be okay to do?
No, it'd be okay to do it, and I'll tell you the two reasons why it would be okay to do it. One is in the last full year before the pandemic, we had people sat in cafes around the city. We had the art shop putting art things on, because ultimately what I'd love to see is, yes, we're focused on Dalton Square, but if we had 10, 15, 20 organisations dotted around the city putting bits on, and somebody said, I've never painted before, or I've never done any mindfulness in the Story Garden or any garden, I'd like to try it, then that's fantastic, go for it. It might just be, and this is the second reason, that only your own members turn up, but it doesn't matter, because if you put it on, we'll put it on our website. So you can go to Amy, who looks after all that, and gets up there and gives you some profile. And that then puts you forward as a community group, people are available to join in with. But to be honest with you, if you're a small group and one other person turns up and becomes really interested in your group, well, bingo.
Yeah.
Progress, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You made something, you're out there, somebody's noticed you, something's happened. I've never yet seen any movement in society, whether looking at it historically or at present in the past recent years, that actually has made a major change overnight. Just doesn't happen. It starts off with a few small people getting together and kicking off and seeing where we get to, and persevering. It's as simple as that, really. And kind of, you know, that's where we're at with population health. It might be, if you take a similar view of food and ecology, that the crisis itself, the ecological crisis itself, forces a bigger change and quicker change. But until that's going to have to be a major change, because the pandemic's over and people are jumping back in their 4x4s and joining, you know, the line up in McDonald's, and then wondering why they're not well. Well, you're not well, you daft bugger, because you drive around in a 4x4, take no exercise, and eat rubbish food. You know, I can't call them a daft bugger because I'll complain to the chief executive, I'll get in trouble. But you know, you can actually point out that is probably not a wise course of action if you really want to live a slightly longer life. And that's where we're at. We've got to change mindset and culture. Sorry, Jill's got her hand up. I don't know whether she's smiling or grimacing at me. Really, I can't see. It's a bit dark, Jill.
I'm trying to breathe through my nose. Now
questions about Jill's sex life on a postcard, please. The chaplain doesn't want to know.
Oh dear. I'll bring you back to cycling. It was a question.
Okay, fantastic. We'll go for that.
Yeah. So you mentioned cycling up the street from Sainsbury's up to maybe have a wrap in Dalton Square, which sounds fun, but I just wondered whether you could see some of the cyclists maybe going a little bit further, because of course you've got the old railway track that goes out towards Caton and well, it goes to Conde Green, but also out towards Morecambe to Saltaire, our sports centre. And also there's a little racing cycling track next to Saltaire, the Scale Hull track, which I've raced on before today. I just wondered whether you could see the cyclists, like the walkers, going for little tours, maybe some little 2 or 3 mile zooms out of Lancaster, just as a bit of an activity.
Jill, you are a genius, because that's precisely what we want. The route we've set out will start at the back of Sainsbury's, precisely because every cycle route in Lancaster and Morecambe meets up there. So we can say to people from Caton, cycle down the track from Caton and come for the first time on the road. Cycle from Morecambe, cycle from Heysham, cycle from Barrow Furness if you want, cycle from up the Lune Valley and join us there. It may well be, when we get this put together, that we take a pick up your idea and give people maps of cycle routes and say, look, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you live in Lancaster, why don't you cycle up to Caton? You know, have a look around, cycle back down and come and get your wrap in Dalton Square. You can still do the route. We're going to be here for like 3 hours, you know. So I think you're absolutely right. It's about opening it all. What you have to do to change something, and this is where you're absolutely spot on, is, you know, you have to show people what's possible, don't you? That's the crucial thing. And the Health Festival, in the first instance, showed the trust what was possible in terms of you can put an event on. Then it showed the trust what was possible in terms of engagement numbers for not a lot of money. You know, in the health service, if something's trendy, they chuck shed loads of dosh at it, basically, like councils do and governments do. If something's, you know, flavour of the month, the money comes and other stuff gets squeezed. So we've done this on not a lot of money, and there's a recognition that it needs to step up to a more professional basis now because it has all sorts of kind of benefits to come with it. But what we're now doing is trying to show the people in the city of Lancaster, actually, you don't need a government diktat to tell you to look after yourself. We can do it ourselves. We can build something around here. It's possible to do it. And you don't have to, you know, like my parents, you don't have to feel bad about the food you cooked and fed your kids, because it was meat and 2 veg was all right. You know what I mean? It's better than the processed rubbish. And we've got to show people things like that, really. And that's the aim of what we're doing, showing what can be achieved. And I have to say, I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it. I'll say it to others. I have grave concerns about the movement for social prescribing. And I said this to the Director of Public Health the other day, and I think he shares my concerns, because we hear about social prescribing, getting people to go to gyms, taking exercise and whatever. It does not change the power dynamic at all. It's still a professional telling you to take exercise. Actually, I don't need a professional to tell me to take exercise. Thank you very much indeed. It's patronising. You know, but that's the stage we've got to, and we think it's exciting to have social prescribing. If we said, look, mate, the issue really is you're 2 stone overweight, you need to take some exercise. There's 5 options here. Do you fancy one of them? It's up to you. I'm not gonna write a list for you, and unless you're gonna make the effort for it, then that's it. Do you know what I mean? But the whole language of social prescribing, I think it worries me. I think if we called it something like, I don't know, chance to sort your life, here's some options for you and we'll back you on it, I'd be happy with that. Do you know what I mean? But I think the other language makes me nervous. But we just have to show people what's possible. Is my.
I think David's trying to get in. David, you got.
Sorry, no, yeah.
No, you're okay. Actually, it's because of what Jill said. I mean, it's something I should have twigged on myself before. Both of my lads are instructors for COGSET at Saltaire, which is training young cyclists. Yeah. So they would be absolutely perfect for this. So I'll have a word with them.
Thank you. Yeah,
that is absolutely perfect, fitting it 100% there. The other thing is, obviously, Ian, we've spoken before, and you came up with a press release. I just wonder whether, with our machinery, we can start to release that anytime in the near future. Do you think?
I'm going to meet with Bob tomorrow. I think I want to get the process going. Now, I don't see why the process couldn't be fully underway by the end of March, at which point we can then start doing press releases.
Okay.
Because when I've spoken to the county councillor and their council, it's about in Market Square, Dalton Square, I've got to write to the GPs, I've got to write to the borough, I've got to write to Castlederg and say, we're thinking of doing this, any particular objection, how unlikely they are. If we do the route we want, we're going to have to write to the residents in the area, because if you go on the back route is residents there, and make sure they're happy. So once we've got to that stage, then I'm happy, because actually I don't want a resident picking up a press release saying, what do you mean you're closing the road outside my house? I didn't know about it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if they've been notified, then we can do it. I think it's one of those things that may end up, because well, no, the county council say they like things like 12 weeks notice. So I think they'll get it through fairly quick. I think if we've got 2 months of press release and publicity for it, word will get out, because novelty will get out. I'd like more than that, but that's in my head, I think is probably the best. Well, I may be wrong. I mean, I'll talk to Bob tomorrow. He's met with Brian Cookson, who's running the Lancaster Grand Prix, and we may want to go for more publicity early. I don't know, really.
You just let us know when you want to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
we've got Roger. Want to come in, Roger Dillon?
Yes, hello. I really like the whole sort of non-directed thrust of your approach, sort of planting seeds and letting people know what simple things can be done to for considerable benefit, perhaps. Of course, with health prevention, it's always very hard to know what isn't happening. In other words, what might have happened, if things hadn't been done. And I was a bit tongue-in-cheek. I live out in Brookhouse, Caton, and on occasions when I'm coming out on Caton Road, I have to pass McDonald's in the car park. It's often extremely full, and there's quite often queues of traffic because somebody is waiting to come in and out of McDonald's. Maybe one measure would be the car park at McDonald's only being half or a quarter full. Anyway, Yeah, that's a bit tongue in cheek.
That's a lovely ambition. Yes. I mean, the daft thing is, Roger, there's nothing wrong with a burger. We make them at home, but we make sure we buy quality food and we know what's in it. That's the crucial thing, isn't it? And and often because I make my own bread, I'll make some Scotch rolls or something, and we'll have it that way. And okay, I'm very keen. I'm not saying everybody should do it, but there is. I mean, my youngest last week was making tea, and he said, "Oh, are you going to sit in the kitchen with me?" And actually, I sat in the kitchen. He's 22. He's making some food for the pair of us, and I'm reading a book, and there's all bits of comments going back and forth, and a bit of chat, and that's it. Nothing major, but the meal was much nicer because we just sat in the kitchen whilst he made it. Do you know what I mean? And I was giving another example, slightly tangent. I was absolutely gobsmacked when we had the TV series where the nursery was taking its young kids to the nursing home and say, look how young people and old people get on. And I thought, God, have we come so far? We now have to make a TV program about it. Toddlers spend hours with grandparents. It's how life works. Do you know what I mean? Or used to. I can remember. I even remember now vividly. After my granddad had died, standing in the kitchen with my nana, and my nana asking how I thought my granddad was. I was about 7. Do you know what I mean? But it was a natural conversation while we peeled potatoes together. Do you know what I mean? We've just lost so much. I think, and it's sort of worth pointing out that the subtext of the Health Festival is a lost art of living, and I think we genuinely have lost the art of living, really. So
Roger,
I can see
Roger again. I think Roger.
Oh, just a comment that I pick up a full bin bag full of rubbish from the Priory churchyard on a Sunday, and half of that bin bag will be McDonald's wrappers. There seems to be a correlation between McDonald's and litter throwing.
I think it's more a correlation between McDonald's, because it's the only place that's open when you've had 7 or 8 pints of beer and you want some food, basically.
And then you throw the litter out the car, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Any other questions for Ian? No, Ian. I mean, I thought that was great. I mean, just one sort of final comment from me, and that was I was really interested in what you said about something went wrong in the 1980s, and it reminded me about 15 years ago. I did a lot of work with a guy called David Urquhart, who at that time was the Bishop of Birkenhead. I mean, then become the Bishop of Birmingham. Really interesting guy. But anyway, David had this theory, and it was about life expectancy. And his theory was that life expectancy in the UK had peaked and was going to reduce. And the reason he said that was because the cumulative effect of diet, lack of exercise, but also because a lot of middle-class people were living increasingly frenetic lives, the 24/7 culture. And you know what? It's happening, isn't it? Because life.
Yeah, it is. It is. And my argument is we can reverse that and increase life expectancy and quality even better just by saying, cut the rubbish. Just learn the art of living.
But I think what was really good about your presentation and your whole approach, and Roger Dillon made the point, it's it's not preachy, right? And I mean that in the
sense. Thank you. That's right.
But it's about empowering people and giving people that's going to be much more successful in the long run than lecturing people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll finish because I promised my young man I'll probably catch up with something. But just one final thing. But I have to be on the table. I am, of course, the chaplain. I am therefore a card-carrying Christian. One of the things that inspires me in all this in philosophy is, philosophically speaking, is from my own religious tradition, we have turned Christianity into religion rather than wisdom. And what I mean by that is that we've lost the fact that a number of the stories and the kind of aphorisms that Jesus came out with apply to normal life. So to give you 2 really simple examples, there's a great principle in business called the 80-20 principle. I'm sure you all heard of it, that 80% of results come from 20% of effort. And you can see that everywhere. Basically, if you've got A small number of things have a big impact, and lots of other things around it don't. So businesses can analyze their profit lines, and 80% of the profits come from about 20% of their customers. That's what happens. That is no more than a secular retelling of the parable of the sower. So some bloke chucks a load of seed around, 25% gets eaten by the birds, 25% gets choked by thorns, 25% goes bust on the hard stones, 25% kicks off a product. We've lost that. So for me and the Health Festival, one of the drivers, philosophically speaking, is one of the very strange conversation. In the gospel stories, Jesus is wandering along into Jerusalem. This guy called Bartimaeus, who's blind, and says, Jesus, have mercy on me. So Jesus calls him over and says, what do you want me to do for you? Nobody ever stops to think, what a bloody stupid question. He's blind, for heaven's sake. What an absolutely stupid question. What do you think he wants to do for you? But then you pause and you think, well, hold on a minute. Why did he say that? He said it for two reasons, I think. One is Bartimaeus, if he gets his sight back, has to give up his career. He can't beg anymore. He's not blind. He's got to do something different. And the second thing is, if you're going to ask for something and I'm going to give it you, you've got to take responsibility for it. So you've got your sight back, mate. It's your responsibility. I'm going to do nothing until you're prepared to take responsibility. And for me, it's not about being preachy, and it's not about being soft or indulgent. It's about saying you can make a difference. But actually, only you can make a difference. I can make the opportunity, and you can say to me, Ian, I want to sign up for a meditation class or a Tai Chi class. I want to think of my diet. I want to meditate. I can say, okay, so what exactly do you want me to do for you? I want this Tai Chi class. Job done. There's your Tai Chi class. You better be sure about it, because I'm not doing Tai Chi for you. I can't do that, mate. You've got to do it yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of engagement that actually says to people, it's not just about not patronizing, it's saying you are capable of taking responsibility and achieving far more than you think you're thinking of.
So Ian, finally, I just, on behalf of the Civic Vision, would really like to thank you. It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you.
And please come back for this time next year and tell us what's happened, and we'll,
I look forward to it. I look forward to it, and look forward to working with you over these walks and the cycling. It's great fun. There's a lot to be going for.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you again. Okay.
Pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye now. Bye bye. Watch your breathing.